sun is shining, the cars are heading to the grid. It's race 2 at Zandvoort for the GT4 European Series. It has been quite a day for the teams. They had one race this morning, and it had within it about a half-hour delay because we had a McLaren off the road, we had barrier damage, and we had a long stoppage. It was a race ultimately that produced plenty of drama, and a race win for Konstantin Lachenauer and César Gazo. And the cars, as I say, making their way around onto the grid for a standalone grid based on Q2 at the end of yesterday. Let's have a look at what happened earlier on in the day. It was a very good start by Fabien Michel from the outside of the front row, the Santalok Audi bolting into the race lead on the run down to turn 1. But as we had the Francesco Guerra Mercedes on the grass in the background, to the inside line went the pole car of Jules Stern, the Porsche being able to assume the race lead as they dived through the Tarzan hairpin for the first time. Fabien Michel ran second, César Gazo's Aston Martin third, as round the banking was Antoine Potti in the number 8 Toyota Supra, the Silver Cup Championship leader, going into the race. Plenty of drama befell plenty of drivers. For example, Ciambolo Cavazzi running out of road down at turn 1 through the Tarzan hairpin gravel trap onto the bypass, round the back of it, rejoining as Jean-Ludovic Foubert fell off the road as well, with a little bit of help from the number 11 BMW from the same Borissan Automotive Motorsport stable. That brought out a full course yellow. The race got back underway, and on the restart, one or two drivers a bit sluggish, like, for example, Fabien Michel. That allowed César Gazo up into second place, and as the battles continued, it wasn't long before we lost off the road the number 32 United Autosports McLaren. Sizable accident for Gus Bowers, who was out of the car. Gus Bowers was okay, but the barrier damage was so severe that we had to stop the race, and it meant a long stoppage, the driver change taking place in that red flag Parc Fermé condition, and a 20-minute restart from a safety car start. So realistically, the drivers only got about 15 racing minutes in, and even that was affected by a late race safety car period that came after we had a car into the barriers. And there was plenty of drama as through to the front came Konstantin Lachenauer, benefiting in fact from Nikolai Moller-Madsen losing pace as we had a spin for 7:18 Max Busnelli. This was what caused the final interruption, a big impact for number 18 as Henrik Pedersen ploughed into the barrier. So full course yellow became safety car, and up to the end, to the checkered flag, a win for Konstantin Lachenauer and César Gazo. So it was a much interrupted race, the teams hoping for a much calmer second race. Gemma Scott down on the grid, David Addison trackside, and let's hear from one or two of the drivers before we go racing, such as Antoine Potti, the Belgian driver who is on the outside of the second row for the number 8 CMR Toyota team. Let's join Gemma on the grid.
Antoine, c'est un circuit que beaucoup de pilotes viennent aimer. Mais pour toi, c'est la deuxième année que tu as roulé ici, c'est ça?
Oui, c'est la deuxième année. L'année passée, j'ai roulé avec Timothée Buret ici sur le circuit de Zandvoort.
It's the second time that Antoine has raced here in Zandvoort. Last year, he was racing here as well. Mais ici, c'est un circuit avec beaucoup de challenges.
Oui, c'est un circuit qui est assez dur. Il faut assez bien se baser sur le feeling. Et c'est vraiment un circuit qui est dur à être vite dessus, donc il faut vraiment bien bosser beaucoup, et grâce à Stéphane on peut s'améliorer mutuellement, et du coup on arrive à être assez vite ici.
The second is very difficult to drive well, and one where it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of concentration, of course. Et Antoine, aujourd'hui vous commencez au 4e.
Oui, on démarre 4e. Stéphane a fini 4e de sa qualif. Il a fait une assez belle qualif.
Mais bon courage.
Merci.
Merci. Good luck.
Antoine Potti there. There's the car that Stéphane Lemeray has just brought to the grid. Track temperature 27.5 degrees. It has been, for the first part of the day, quite overcast here, but the sun, when it breaks through, is very warm indeed. It's been a weird weekend of weather, blazing hot sunshine or torrential rain, lots of it on Friday, that completely rained off the free practice 2 session. That had to be crowbarred in on Saturday morning. And again last night we had lots of rain which flooded the tunnel at the circuit. So the Zandvoort staff have had a testing weekend, the teams have had a testing weekend, and United Autosports have had a testing weekend because they've lost one of the McLarens. Now the 32 McLaren is in the race, or at least a 32 McLaren is in the race. It's a fresh car and will start from the pit lane. More of that in a moment. Let's go back to the grid. Gemma, who have you got?
Xavier, this morning we could almost say it was Safety Car Sunday. It was an incredibly interesting race, full of drama. Hopefully this one will be slightly less dramatic for you guys.
Yes, of course. In race 1 we had like 3 or 4 full course yellow. We had the red flag. We had a huge crash with the McLaren. Hopefully, yeah, we have a clean race and we can do some more laps because it was a really short race.
It was indeed, and this is a circuit that many of you very much enjoy.
Yeah, it's a really nice track, but it's so narrow that it's so difficult to overtake that there are so many contacts. And yeah, people are a little bit overdriving, and I think people should calm down a little bit and do clean racing and not what we saw in race 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been seeing some of you go in 2, sometimes 3 wide into a corner. Definitely looks over-ambitious.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, have a fantastic race and we'll see you later. Thank you.
Xavier Lloveras and Yuki Ibanez share number 15 Mercedes. Now there is the replacement McLaren. You see in the background Richard Dean. Now the reason there is a spare car is because 3 were initially entered for the event, because Richard was going to share with the team's other owner along with Richard Dean, Zach Brown. Zach has gone to the French Grand Prix where there is the tribute to remember Mansour Roger, who recently passed away. And so with 3 McLarens in the truck but only 2 racing, there was a spare, and that's the one good thing. That means that Gus Bowers and Dean McDonald can go racing, but because it's a completely fresh car and it's not practiced, not qualified, it's been scrutineered, yes, it's passed all that, but it's not taken part in the event thus far, it must start from the pit lane. It would have been at the back of the grid. Anyway, you could argue as a replacement car, so pit lane start doesn't really matter. You're behind all the incidents, and it's in the race. That's the main thing. So behind any dramas, and fingers crossed, it'll be a better result for UA in this race. There's Greg Gilvert's car. That lines up on the outside of the front row. Number 2, Mercedes, had strife in the first race because the car was in the gravel, but Hugo Chevalier, co-driver, is hoping for better fortunes now.
Hubert, fais pas peur. On va parler juste de bel circuit ici aujourd'hui et un circuit que vous aimez bien.
Oui, tout à fait, un très beau circuit sur Zandvoort, sympathique. C'est une découverte pour moi et mon coéquipier, c'est la 2e fois qu'il roule sur ce circuit.
Hubert, of course, the first time that he's raced here and he's discovering the circuit here in Zandvoort, but very much enjoys the circuit, and for, of course, his co-pilot, the second time here in Zandvoort. Et maintenant, pour le 2e course, on croise les doigts qu'il y a moins de drames.
Oui, tout à fait. On va essayer d'éviter les accrochages. On n'est pas situé à la même place, donc ça nous permet déjà de prendre un meilleur départ. Puis maintenant, il faut espérer que ça remonte.
Of course, Hubert saying there that he hopes to make up some positions at the early stages of the race. Hubert, bon courage et merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous. Bonne journée.
Merci.
Now there is the 23, Charlie Fagg, started McLaren. Now Charlie won both races at Monza with Eddie Voisin. He also won on his visit here in 2017, both races. So very accomplished driver is Charlie Fagg, the quick Brit, driving for United Autosports and the Charlie Kemp, Jody Hennings operated car. There's the grid stretching back. You see number 32 ready to go from the pit lane. And a 60-minute race with mandatory pit stops then soon to get underway. The grid being cleared at the 1-minute board, engines will fire up and the grid then will empty. We shall be in business. Now there are 3 classes, Silver, Pro-Am and Am. What we didn't get a chance to see in the earlier race, because we didn't really have any pit windows, were the 3 separate windows operating for each of the classes to try and reduce the number of cars in the pit lane at any one time. So it was 23 to 30 minutes for the Silvers, 30 to 37 for the Pro-Ams, and 25 to 35 minutes for the Am drivers. And a stop is 92 seconds, the drive time and the stop itself in the pits. So that's the reasoning for the 92 seconds, added those 2 elements together, the drive time and the stationary time, but the windows are different. 10 minutes for the Ams and 7 minutes for Silvers and Pro-Ams. So you try to reduce the likelihood of lots of the field all being in the pit lane at the same time. So as soon as the last engineers are off the grid, we can be good to go, I think, for the formation lap. The pace car blasts away and the race director will give the signal any second now to release the cars. So everybody gets away with the pole position car for this second race of the weekend being Jim Pla. There is Enzo Juliet watching on from the pit lane, Greg Gilvert lining up on the outside of row 1. In many cases, you've got the higher graded, quicker driver doing the driving duties first. Jim Pla on the front row. He's already been in the GT3 race today as well as the GT4. Greg Gilvaire lining up alongside him. On the second row of the grid, Charlie Fag then with Stéphane Lemeray for company. 2 wins for Fag, 1 for Lemeray this year. Max Busnelli, after a spin in race 1, starts 5th. Luc Ibanez is 6th on the grid. 7th, Hugo Chevalier, and Olivier Hart, who's a real star in historics as well as modern GT cars, is 8th ahead of Timothée Buret, who's got a grid drop for impeding people in qualifying, and César Gauzot is 10th on the grid, having won race 1. Clement Zeiler is 11th, Tom Canning is 12th. I say César Gauzot, it should be Konstantin Lechner in fact starting that car, ignore the graphic. Yot Repange is 13th, Ralph Kalleners is 14th on the grid, ahead of Benjamin Lariche and Sébastien Bode. Then it will be Romain Netta and Berke Bessler ahead of Benjamin Ricci, sharing with his dad, and Jamie Caroline starting 20th ahead of Jody Vullo and Akhil Rabindra. The next row of the grid, Antoine Leclerc and Neil Stevenart in the Santalok Audi number 21. Next up, Paul Tysgens and Rafael Villanueva. Villanueva in the second NM Racing Mercedes. The next Toyota is on the grid in the hands of Andrea Benezet, and Antonio Spavoni's Century Porsche Ticino Cayman is next ahead of the Allied Cayman of Joel Mathias and Vincent Beltoise, who retired the Alpine from race 1. Jagish Gedic is next with Michael Blanchemont for company on the outside of the 16th row. Row 17 is Eric Hare and Nikolai Müller-Madsen, a long, long way back and a man to watch in the Porsche. Then you've got Max Trasoldi and Dennis Fetzer, BMW and Porsche respectively, with starting from the pits, Dean McDonald in the spare United Autosports McLaren. So the field turning now up through turns 9 the right, this the left at 10, and then the short run down towards the Hans Ernst Bock that takes you round the back of the paddock towards the Kumho Bock, the banked Arie Luyendyk curve, and then up over the timing line. So the pole position car, the Jean-Luc Bobelic owned Mercedes, Jim Pla at the wheel of it. He got a drive-through penalty for contact in the GT World Challenge Europe sprint race earlier on, but he's done one of those today and a GT3 race and all the qualifying yesterday. And leaping from car to car, and impressive for Jim Pla is the fact that he's easily able to adapt from an aero car like a GT3 to a less aero efficient car like a GT4 car. Gets his head around both very quickly indeed. As I say, many of these cars have got the gun driver going first, but Jim Pla, we know he's a star. He's one other of those people that we keep wishing we could see in a pro car, really, in GT3 racing. But although Jean-Luc Bobelic is nowhere near as quick, they do make a pretty good double act. And in Pro-Am, they're well worth watching, as is the car alongside of Greg Gilvaire and Fabien Michel, which might be stronger all round, but the best of the silvers, in which case you might say quick young guns ×2 in that car. Charlie Fag and Bailey Voisin, they start 3rd on the grid, so number 23 McLaren could be in the pound seats here. Let's wait and see as we get ready to go racing them. The cars make their way up towards the timing line then. The pace car as it is will bail for the pit lane. That gives you an idea when you see all the cars together at slow speed just how banked the Arie Luyendyk curve is. And the great variety on the grid as well. Chevrolet goes through, Audi, Mercedes at the front of the grid. There's Audi, there's McLaren, there's Porsche, there's Toyota as well. So the race officials are ready. The race set to get underway then as this very, very slow end to the formation lap brings the cars through the Arie Luyendyk curve up towards the timing line. And the pace car heads for the pit lane now then. The drivers make the run up towards the lights, which will blink green in a moment to get the race underway. We go racing, and a good start made by Jim Pla. He gets the drop on everybody down towards turn 1. Going with him is Greg Gilvaire. Charlie Fag 3rd to the inside line. On the outside is Stéphane Lemeray in the Toyota. Behind him you've got the Mercedes of Luc Ibanez, number 15, as they accelerate now up towards the Gerlachbach for the first time, then towards Hugenholt. But it's Jim Pla leading the way as out wide goes Luc Ibanez. And also out wide, number 34 Mercedes of Olivier Hart. He goes to the inside of Timothée Buret, who takes the wide line round the banking. Buret comes out ahead. Over the brow then, up towards Hunsrück for the first time. Speed building, really fast, really exciting part of the circuit this. You can just about overtake if you're brave. And Olivier Hart, the Dutch driver, on the back of the race 1 winning Aston Martin, Konstantin Lechner at the wheel of it. So the Swiss driver keeps the Dutchman at bay through Skyflach they go for the first time. That is Max Busnelli, just ahead of Ugo Chevalier, number 2 Mercedes, hustling on in 34. Look, Olivier Hart, does he make a move against the Aston? He thinks about it, almost commits on the inside line there. It's not quite going to work, I don't think. They almost lean on each other. Lachenauer gets forced out wide. He's got the inside here, though, look, coming into turn 10, and he goes back through on the inside line. So the cars sprint now down towards the Hans Ernst Bock for the first time. Jim Pla trying to get away as the field accelerates towards us. There, the Chevrolet diving to the inside. Yacht Raponge goes ahead of Olivier Hart. That was a good pass. The Mercedes, for some bizarre reason, rather gave an awful lot of racing room there. Olivier Hart perhaps didn't expect that, but Yacht Raponge goes through. And the Chevrolet up from 13th on the grid. It's making good progress on the outside line there. Jamie Caroline. So the British F4 champion just keeping at bay Sebastian Bode in the Mercedes that he shares with Enzo Juliet. The race leader is Jim Pla there at the head of the queue. Second, Gilbert. Third, Fag. Fourth, Lemeray. Fifth, Ibanez. Sixth, Busnelli. Great battle on for 7th. Look, as up the inside goes Timothée Buret against Ugo Chevalier. The 2 Mercedes together. Konstantin Lachenauer is 9th. Tom Canning's Aston there. The red, white and blue car is 10th. But Ugo Chevalier making his Mercedes very wide indeed, hanging onto the place then as they make the run round the banking at turn 3 here. Over the brow, power on. And number 20 has stopped out on the circuit, so the Dennis Fetzer Porsche from Allied Racing has stopped on the opening lap of the race, and it's midway around the lap, so it's a big disappointment for the team. It's coming up through the Hunsrück-Slottermacher section of the circuit, but the leaders are at turn 10, and the battle is on not so much now for the lead, more for 4th place, I think, with Stéphane Lemeray being attacked by Luc Ibanez in the Mercedes. So there's the top 3. Pla getting away from Gilbert. There's the stricken Porsche that's used the cut-through to park there, so Dennis Fetzer peeled the car through the cut-through, through the link, you can see, and he's parked it out of the race, so the Porsche sits and watches. The leaders all concertina down towards turns 11 and 12 here, and an effort is being made against the 2 Audis, so you've got Benjamin Lariche there, just ahead of 77 of Roma Ionetta. Drivers both with single-seater experience, powering their way now up towards the right-hander coming into Kumho Box, and then the Uri Line-Dyke curve at the end of the lap. The leaders go through. It is still Pla up front, and then Greg Gilbert behind him. That margin is 9/10 of a second. On that lap, of course, Jim Pla fractionally faster as the leader, the first one to do a proper flying lap. To the inside of Lachenauer goes Tom Canning. It's Aston on Aston, the British driver against the Swiss, and Canning goes through, gets the tighter line, gets the job done. Nice move. That brings Yacht Raponge into the equation now. Look in the Chevrolet Camaro. So for 9th, 10th and 11th, they are together as Ugo Chevalier comes through turn 3. Busy battling now, looking for a way past the Porsche of Max Busnelli, but he can't do it there. Olivier Hart back up the inside of the Chevrolet, retakes the place that he lost on the opening lap. So Olivier Hart goes by, and Yacht Raponge then, rather than attack, has to start defending, because now he has got right there behind him the Lachenauer Aston Martin. 6th is Max Busnelli in 7:18, and Ugo Chevalier is right on his tail. 7th place in the Mercedes, now not only on his tail but up the inside and through. That was an easy pass. So Max Busnelli getting plenty of racing room to the Merc, but loses out, and now he's about to be dive-bombed by Timothée Buret up the inside at turn 10. Pretty audacious move that by Buret. Can the Porsche get the drive out of the corner? There's more rubbing between the 2 of them. Timothée Buret was given a grid drop going into this race, so we know he's got the pace to be a little bit further up the order. Goes from the outside to the inside. They're both being caught by Tom Canning, looking 55 Aston as they go now through turn 12, the left-hander. So Max Busnelli, who had a spin in the earlier race, now comes under attack from the light flashing Timothée Buret into 13. The Kumho Bock they come. And part of the reason, incidentally, that we lost the Dennis Fetzer number 20 Porsche was contact with Max Tresolder, we understand, in 50 BMW. So that's being looked at as the leaders go by with 3 laps in the book. Timothée Buret again on the defensive as Tom Canning comes to the outside line. Max Busnelli just ahead of them. Jim Pla, the overall leader, is also, of course, the Pro-Am leader. Leading silver is Charlie Fag, and the leading Am at the moment is Benjamin Ricci down in 21st place. There is Tom Canning in 55. So Silver Cup car chases Silver Cup car because ahead of him is Timothée Bure in the Mercedes he shares with another quick gun, Paul Everard. Mercedes leads Audi, McLaren third, Toyota fourth, Mercedes fifth and sixth, Porsche seventh, Mercedes eighth, Aston ninth, Mercedes 10th. So the race leader is Jim Clark, looking strong up front, a second to the good at the moment as there Timothée Bure hustles on, trying to fend off the challenge of Tom Canning, also trying to get onto terms with the Max Busnelli Porsche just up the road ahead. Of course, as ever in double driver races, as there Bure dive bombs Busnelli at 9, and does he go through? Almost leans on the Porsche. Busnelli gets the inside line for 10. He will go back ahead, and up the inside tries to go Tom Canning as they round that long left as he gets ahead of the Mercedes. Side by side they come towards us. Max Busnelli just gets the drive out of the corner. Tom Canning is going to have the outside line for the first part of the Hans-Ernst Bocht, but the inside line for the second if he can stand his ground, and he can't. So back ahead goes Bure. I was about to suggest that one of the fascinations here is the differing pace of drivers. Some cars are with evenly matched drivers, others there is a discernible difference between the pace of the two, and you factor that into the second part of the race. So up towards the timing line comes then the Porsche, and an incident between Busnelli and Bure has been noted. So the officials are certainly not planning on an early flight tonight. They've got quite a lot to look at already. We've only done 7.5 minutes down towards Tarzan Hairpin, squirming under braking the green Sellerslach Racing Team Mercedes, from which O'Neill Muth stands down for this weekend. Olivier Hart replaces him, and there's only the one, sadly, of the Sellerslach Mercedes, both for here, but only one on track. But Olivier Hart goes to the inside of Tom Canning and suddenly finds that door closed. That forces him out deep round the corner. So they push on with the race lead still claimed by Jim Clark. Greg Gilbert is there in second spot. The gap down last time. Gilbert doing the fastest lap of the race. Dean McDonald from the pit lane. What progress is being made by number 32? He is catching up to the pack, so he's getting up with them, having started a little bit late. And there to the inside line goes Olivier Hart. That puts him ahead of Tom Canning. Yes, coming out of turn 9, job done. The car a little bit sideways as he boots the power down, but Olivier Hart, used to squirming historic sports cars and touring cars, easily able to control that. And up ahead of Busnelli finally has gone Timothée Bure as well. So the reversal has happened here for 7th place, as you've seen. And Busnelli, although he's fighting back, might struggle here because the Porsche just does not seem to have quite the pace this weekend. That Pro-Am class car falling back ever so slightly as the field powers over the brow. It's a great sight of GT4 grid these days because it's almost never ending. There's just car after car after car. 36 is the Antoine Leclerc and CMR run. Alpine, Antoine Leclerc at the wheel of it for this opening stint. Right, Dean McDonald up into 35th, which might not sound much, but he's finally caught the pack and he's now able to make progress. There is the car, he's just got past 69 of Michael Blanchemin. Started way ahead on the grid, but Dean McDonald then pushes on. Max Tresoldi is the next target. Blanchemin, that yellow Audi, recently has been off the road, so that's another reason why he is having fallen back. He was coming out of the Hugenholz-Bocht, but he ran wide and lost ground as a consequence. Good midfield battles there. Akil Rabindra coming under attack from Clement Zeiler, who tries the low line. Let's see if that works for him. He can't even get level, can he? And the better line off the banking seems to be claimed by the Indian driver. Akil Rabindra then in the Aston Martin powers through. So 10 minutes nearly done. Busy track, busy race, busy pit stop soon, because for the Silvers, after 23 minutes, they'll be able to pit. So another 13, and the pit lane's going to be open. There's Jim Clark still leading the way. Now he will give that car over to Jean-Luc Bobelic, who would not admit as being as fast as Jim, wouldn't claim to be, but fascination is going to be to see what happens for that car in the Pro-Am fight, because probably a more evenly matched pair, let's say, a Fabien Michel and Greg Gilbert there in the Santalok Audi behind. All the cars with the Satina windscreen strips, the watch company, as you see there. Busnelli go deep into the chicane rather, losing places to Tom Canning and to Olivier Hart. So Busnelli, clear mistake. He had a spin in the first race and a big mistake there as well. So 718 Porsche, not only has it not got the pace, errors like that costing it dear. 2 places lost and a third about to be given away as now Konstantin Lachner gets up onto the tail of that car as well. Diving into Tarzan, closing under braking there is 15. So Luc Ibanez closing onto the back of Stéphane Lemeray. Charlie Fagg goes through, hanging on to third, but not really staying with the two race leaders at the moment. All the class pole position winners, by the way, get Satina watches, part of the sponsorship deal, in return for which the cars carry the legend on the windscreen. And the field blasting now through Hunsrück. There's the Toyota. Say that there are two in the race. We've had three on occasions this year, but we've got the Hodson father and son combination missing this weekend. So there's the AM car and the silver car run by CMR, and Stéphane Lemeray, championship leader, running in fourth place. There's the Mercedes with a slightly quicker Luc Ibanez at the wheel of it, pushing on. The NM Racing team that came into the championship with Lloveras and Ibanez a few years back with the Ginetta had all sorts of mixed results, problems as well as good days, and switched to the Mercedes last year. It was an instant hit, and Xavier Lloveras second in Silver Cup last season. Clark to Gilbert a second last time. Now there's Charlie Fagg, double winner here 2 years back. Slightly surprised the McLaren isn't staying with the Audi and the Mercedes up the road, unless this is a United Autosports master plan, just to run at a pace and push harder in the second stint when you get the slower Baudelic and Michel in those front-running cars. The Mercedes booms through, chasing the Toyota. Ibanez a little bit wide through 13, now into the line-dyke banked curve. It's been a spectacular element, a spectacular addition for GT racing. Touring cars as well that are here this weekend. It certainly will be for Formula One in September when the Dutch Grand Prix returns finally to the calendar. Dean McDonald's pit lane starting McLaren up to 33rd now, just relieved Eric Hare of a place. So the race leaders work lap 8. 10 more minutes before we can think about pit stops, but it's going to be a really jumbled mid part of the race, really. The middle third, pretty much, is all going to be about the pit stops. You don't want to be stuck in traffic, but you don't want to do your stop and be released into traffic. So those on the pit wall are going to have to be thinking sensibly about when to bring the cars in. The 007 Aston is Paul Tysgans for the first stint. The AM class car over the brow through Hunsrück on towards the Slottermacher box after Rob Slottermacher, the Dutch racer and skid course guru, as the school behind the circuit. And there, out of Skyblack goes Clement Zeiler in number 14. He dabbled in GT3 last year, but Clement back into GT4 this year, keeping Paul Tysgans at bay, sharing that Audi with Roy Meohas, the Israeli driver, and Clement Zeiler doing the opening stint in this because he qualified the car, and then at the pit stops the other driver gets in. So the way it works is you do a qualifying session and you start a race each, finish a race each. 20th place this battle. Aki Rabindra, Clement Zeiler, Paul Tysgans and Benjamin Ricci not that far behind. Max Busnelli dropping down the order, down to 10th place after that moment we saw coming through this section a couple of laps back. Out of the line dyke curve, up towards the timing line they come. Battle on there at the road. The BMW getting a bit of a squeeze look as to the inside line. Dives the M4 Veke Bessler and gets up on the inside of Sebastian Boden, goes through or retakes 14th place. They were side by side over the line. Just up the road ahead, the former Toyota Works sports car racer, a very experienced Porsche racer and broadcaster, you name it, Ralph Kelleners, who is very much quicker than his co-driver Christian Gysi in the number 9 Audi. His distinctive livery, there it is, going through. So as the cars thread their way around the Hunsrück section, Jamie Caroline pressing on, number 70, 12 he is at the moment in the car that he shares with Jean-Luc Dauria. That is Max Tresoldi, who's got it wrong at the Tarzan hairpin exit, and after a 3-point turn gets going again, but the AM BMW rather badly delayed as a consequence of that. So there is Jim Pla, the race leader, heading out of turn 12. Onto the power once again, and as the Lumirank flicks between his race position and the short code for the driver, Jim Pla, it is using all of the curve through Kumho Bocht, lines the car up for the line dyke curve, goes for the apex, lets the car wash to the wall on the outside. So although it's a banked corner, the driver's if they can, take the lower line through that. That's the quicker line through, it seems. 45, Akil Rabindra, 14, Clément Seiler, 7 is Paul Tysgans as they come nose to tail out of turn 12. The race leaders work lap number 10. It's a second and a half only between the top two, but Greg Gilbert, I think he's quite happy to run at that pace, knowing that Fabien Michal, his co-driver, is quicker than Jean-Luc Bobelic, who'll take over the Mercedes. Jean-Luc is a jolly character, but with many, many years of experience, doesn't claim to be as quick as Jim Pla, but he's very pleased he's got this gun for hire. Tysgans to the inside of Seiler, Aston Martin on the inside of the Audi, brake hard for the Tarzan hairpin, and Paul Tysgans goes through, gets up past Clément Seiler then, so the young Swiss driver drops back one spot. The cars thread their way out of the Gerlach Bocht up towards Hugenholtz. Over the white line with two wheels goes Seiler, that's fine. There's all the curb, the concrete on the outside that you can use for traction, fire the car off that wider line, and that now puts Paul Tysgans up to the lead, or still keeps him in the lead of the AM contest ahead of Benjamin Ricci, but he's got a car between himself and the class opposition. Ricci is coming in the Mercedes. Another one that's slightly disappointing in this, Nicolai Moller-Madsen, because a quick driver, Silver Cup champion, but only 26th, not getting through the traffic. Dean McDonald from pit start, 33rd now, in R32. So this long stream of cars turns through. Paul Tysgans making progress on this lap. What have we got now? About 5 minutes before the pit window opens. There is the Benjamin Ricci Mercedes coming up to have a go at Clément Seiler. So Ricci needs to go after Tysgans. Seiler is a distraction, and he's about to be dive bombed, is he, by the Alpine there, number 30. That is Vincent Beltoise, the car retired from race 1, and the Silver Cup Alpine is on the back of the AM Cup Mercedes. Goes one way, goes the other, can't find a way through though. So the cars blast over the timing line once more. 10 laps down, and the lead gap's going up 2 seconds now. So Jim Pla, as the car gets lighter and gets quicker, pushing on, stretching the advantage a little bit more now. Number 90 Mercedes, Jody Vullo, right on the back of Vincent Beltoise. So the very smart Mercedes with the white wheels uses the banking. Can he get the power down to attack the Alpine? The Alpine, of course, a car with its own one make series, which gets good numbers these days, accelerates through. Alpine supporters of single-seater racing now, having rebadged the Renault F1 team, and of course linking the brand to the Formula Regional Series, which has effectively replaced the Formula Renault Euro Cup as the cars ride the curb, and that little kick takes it down to turn 8. A little bit loose there, look, the Alpine of Vincent Beltoise. Does that give Jody Vullo a chance to challenge? It does not in the Mercedes. He slots back in behind as they round turn 9. Benjamin Ricci under attack from the Alpine, wanting to get on with the job, and he's dropped backward from Clément Seiler as he's having to defend. So his chances of going after the class leading Aston of Paul Tysgans fading away here. To the inside goes Beltoise, and he gets the job done on the inside line there. The Alpine dives through ahead of the Mercedes, which almost gets attacked by the similar car of Jody Vullo there, number 90. Not that far behind this group now. Look, you see Nicolai Moller-Madsen with the headlights on. The Cayman is charging along, but the trouble is, getting through the traffic is not that easy around here. So Nicolai Moller-Madsen, after a bad qualifying that was rather affected by the number 15 Luc Ibanez Mercedes having a problem stopping out on the track. There, Max Busnelli loses out as Konstantin Lachenauer goes through on the inside line. Gets himself up now into 11th place, does Lachenauer. They both drop back behind Jamie Caroline. So Lachenauer finally goes ahead of Max Busnelli. But yeah, Nicolai Moller-Madsen in qualifying left it late, and that's when we had yellow flags out for Luc Ibanez's car stranded by the side of the road. So he couldn't do as much of a job as he wanted. Net result was the car started a long way back, and he's not making progress up through the field here. Leaders crest the rise. There is 718 Max Busnelli. That car's just fading. Granted, he made that mistake and went off the road, but even so, car does not seem to have the pace, and nor actually is Konstantin Lachenauer. He is struggling to make the progress, just like Nicolai Moller-Madsen. So it's a very different feel to this race, as Jim Pla tries to extend that lead, 2.5 seconds last time, but I still think there's an element of contentment from Saint-Elot because of the relative pace of the second drivers, Fabien Michel versus Jean-Luc Beaubelic. In contrast, though, Charlie Fagg dropping away in third. Fourth there is Antoine Potty. Fifth, Luc Ibanez. Sixth, Timothée Buret. Seventh is Hugo Chevalier. And Nicolai Moller-Madsen hasn't made progress. He's jumped ahead, look, of both Jody Vullo now and Benjamin Ricci. So the Porsche gaining 2 places, and Jagish Gedik is not far behind either in the bright blue BMW, the Turkish driver. Jody Vullo in the Trevolato racing by Scuderia Velora course, the second of their entries, because the leading car is that of Jamie Caroline in 10th place, but Jody Vullo in the car he shares with Francisco Guerra goes through and wide and just about saved that. I thought for a moment that was going to spit the car across the road, but a good save by Jody Vullo there as he hooked a wheel over the curb and oh so nearly lost traction completely. Made his heart rate go up, but it's also now given renewed optimism to Benjamin Ricci, and also there look to Jagish Gedik, who comes clattering up the inside of the BMW. No contact, amazingly enough, but that was only because Gedik, I think, stood on everything to avoid rubbing up against the Mercedes. And behind him is Andrea Benezet in the second of the Toyotas, closing up as well. Then you've got Joaquim Macias, the former Champ Car racer. But again, that's a Porsche that's way, way down and out of position, just not seeming to have the pace here. So the race continues apace, and up front the race leadership is claimed, as it has been since the start, by Jim Pla. Looking strong, looking good. There is Andrea Benezet on the back of Jagish Gedik. In 8th place, Olivier Hart goes through, still being chased by Tom Canning, the former GT4 class champion within British GT, and he will give that car over to Ruben Delsart on the pit stops, son of former British Formula First, Formula 3 racer Raphael Delsart. And as the cars head now into the right-hander of Kummerbach, Tom Canning for Mirage Racing, another of the Silver Cup entries, is ahead in the class of Jamie Caroline and chasing Timothée Buret, but he's got 2 of the Pro-Ams between him and the class opposition up the road. There is Jamie Caroline in the silver Mercedes onto the pit straight for 5th and 6th there, nose to tail, as Ibanez is under attack from Buret again. So Timothée Buret in 88 Mercedes hustles on. He looks to the inside line, he does not. Gets onto the back though of the Ibanez Mercedes. And the way they ride the top of the banking there, how close they are to the camera, it really gives you the impression of speed as they fire around that parabolic left-hander up through Hunsrück now. And at the head of the field, the lead gap has really markedly gone up over the last couple of 3 laps to 4.4 seconds. Into the pit lane has come number 30. So that is Vincent Beltoise to give way to Loris Cabirou. So the pit window is open. This is the silver pit window. And in about a minute's time, the AM window will open. The Pro-Ams have to wait until half distance, and then they get 7 minutes there. Bagnac turning through. Under attack from Buret, trying to attack Stéphane Lemeray in the Toyota just up ahead. There is Hugo Chevalier, number 2 Mercedes, as he wriggles out of turn 12 now. That car in 7th, chasing after Buret, who is chasing after Ibanez. The 3 Mercedes there, running almost together, coming down through the right-hander here of the Kummerbach, up through the Lyondike right-hander. There is Jock Rapponge with Romani Annetta on the back of him. Now Rapponge is only in 16th place. That car was on the podium, well, the drivers were at least, at the end of race 1, but the Gruntigo Camaro not really going as well in this second race of the weekend. So much of that is down to where you qualify, admittedly, but the V8 racing entry not going so well, putting the pressure on Timon Nabours in the second stint of the race. And of course, admittedly, the first race was a quirk anyway, with the relative lack of running for the second stint drivers. Into the pits comes then this time around Sébastien Bode, comes Jock Rapponge, and also in, I think, was Jody Vullo. Benjamin Lariche is in, Nicolai Moller-Madsen is in, so pit lane getting busy. Jean-Luc Beaubelic, I've just seen run across the pit lane getting ready to take over a car as well. Nicolai Moller-Madsen's arrived at the Allied Racing squad to give way to Joel Stern. Timon Nabours replaces Jock Rapponge there in the Chevrolet. And Jim Pla stays out for as long as he can to try to build the lead, to try to give as good a chance as he possibly can to his co-driver, the man that's paying the bills, Jean-Luc Bobelik. I think it's fair to say that Jean-Luc goes better in GT4 than GT3. We just had the Michael Blanchemin, Christophe Amon Audi down the pit road as well. So under huge attack now is Ibanez, but both Mercedes have got themselves up past the Toyota of Stéphane Lemeret. So number 15 Mercedes, Luc Ibanez finally clears Stéphane Lemeret, takes Bourret with him. Now Hugo Chevalier comes up to have a go at the CMR entry as well. All of this might be a little bit of a forlorn hope in a sense, because they're not that far off making their mandatory pit stops. Ibanez for Lloveras, Bourret to Everard, Lemeret for Antoine Potty. He comes in, staying out Hugo Chevalier before he gives way to Jean-Ludovic Foubert. So the race leaders go through. The Mercedes are side by side. Ibanez just with a little rub against Timothée Bourret. He was fully ahead pretty much, but Bourret was determined to sit on the outside line there. And now, look, they're getting delayed by cars rejoining. 74, Enzo Gillier has just come out of the pit lane, so that car is a lap down out of sequence, but can run at their pace pretty much. 92 seconds is a pit stop, and a lap is a minute and 44. So it's a minute and 32 in the pits, or a minute and 44 for a lap. You therefore are almost rejoining where you came into the pits. There is Chevalier through, as Clément Zeiler gives way to Rui Meohas. Meohas then on board. Greg Gilbert being told about track limits up at turn 3, which is the Hugenholtz corner. And as the cars are about to complete lap 16, Joel Sturm has taken over from Nikolai Moller-Mountain in 22 and a slightly short pit stop, but they've got away with that on the basis that it was their joker stop. So it was about half a second under the 92, but they can count that as the joker, which means you're given a 1 second tolerance to use in either of the two races. Stéphane Lemeret is on his way back to the timing screens. Antoine Potty there in the Toyota takes the car over. Down the pit road he goes. So Antoine Potty on track. Loops it through the inside of the Tarzan hairpin. Of course, in days of yore, you would rejoin on track just before the hairpin, but now, ready for F1, you come onto the track just before turn 2. So there is Antoine Potty. Timothée Bourret has come in, and Luc Ibanez has come in, so Mercedes bailing from that leading group. There is Ibanez, and Javier Lloveras ready to get on board. Timothée Bourret out, Paul Everard in to one of the ACA ASP Mercedes. ASP Autosport Promotion, which is Jérôme Policon's team. Jérôme himself, an accomplished French racer, got as far as Formula 3000 many years ago. So Jim Pla leading now by nearly 8 seconds from Greg Gilbert. Jim getting on with the job. It might have been half a second increments early on, but now he's absolutely flying as he gets towards the end of the stint. 15 is Xavier Lloveras, good to go. Max Trezoli has brought in the BMW that he'd spun and given it over to Paolo Meloni now, number 50. So Pla, Gilbert, Fag, Chevalier is the top 4 at the moment. Antoine Potty on track. We're approaching the half-distance point now as the cars wriggle their way up through the exit of turn 12. There you've got 15 ready to go. Lloveras accelerates away. And 88 is good to go as well. So Paul Everard sets off. We've also had in the race 1 winning car. You can just see it at the top end of the pit lane there, the blue and white and black Aston. As away goes Ruben Del Sart. Now Cesar Gazzo gets away and he will fall behind the number 70 Jean-Luc Daria Mercedes. Daria put that in the gravel yesterday, but he's heading down the pit lane now. So there you've got Lloveras ahead of Everard, and their pit stop times were, in the case of Ibanez, slightly under the 92 seconds. In the case of Everard, bang on the 92 seconds. And as far as the number 8 Toyota is concerned, Antoine Potty's stop in comparison, I think, was a bit slower. Yes, he lost 5 seconds against them in the pit lane. It was a slow stop at CMR, but as I say, 3/10 under the regulation time, number 15, so they might be able to count the Joker pit stop if they didn't use that in race 1. 23 comes in, as you see, Charlie Fagg to give way to Bailey Voisin. And that was from 3rd place. So Jim Pla going as long as he can on this stint. There is Antoine Potti in the CMR Toyota Supra, winner at Paul Ricard. But he's lost time in the pits, so now let's see what he can do as the second part of the race wears on. The Pro-Am window is now open. There's a driving standards flag to Hugo Chevalier for not respecting track limits. And there, Jim Pla comes out of the line right curve. Is he in this time? Nope, another lap done. So the ACA team, ACA ASP, needs to be very confident of when to bring him in, and number 15 has indeed used its Joker pit stop. So having said it was 3/10 under, they've claimed the Joker. That's okay, get away with that. As back into the race goes number 23 now, with Bailey Voisin at the wheel, the sister car that Gus Bowers is driving in 33rd. That's a spare car that they've not really had any time in this weekend. So that's going to drop the McLaren, I think, behind the Mercedes, is it not? Looks as though that's another car that's lost out somewhere along the line in the pit stops, and it's fallen back behind the Toyota. Now, why was that a slow pit stop? Because a minute and 42, that's lost 10 seconds in the pit lane somehow. So something's gone awry in the pits, and it brings Bailey Voisin on circuit, but now having to fight for position against the Audi there, number 42, which is effectively a lap up at the moment in the hands of Greg Gilvert. Now that car, remember, is in Pro-Am, which is a later pit window. So the Pro-Am window is open now, opened only a few minutes ago. So that car will be coming to the pits shortly. Greg Gilvert has been dropping away over the last few laps. That last one was about 3 seconds slower, although some of that could be down to traffic. There is Antoine Potti. The proper situation we're going to get after all of the different windows have closed, because right now you've got some, because they're in different classes, that are able to stay out longer and rather distort the order. But Jim Pla in Pro-Am battles on. Tom Canning and Ruben Del Sart being looked at for being short on the pit stop. Jim Pla comes out of the line dark curve. Is it the pit stop this time? Answer is no. Another lap down. So Pla blasts past, and 55, as I say, it's under investigation for the pit stop time. The car of Tom Canning and now Ruben Del Sart. Trying to find its pit stop time, trying to find where it is in the order at the moment. 55 is 15th, and it was 2 seconds just under the pit stop. So there, the Audis almost tripping over one another. 42 comes in, so that's from second place. Greg Gilvert to give way to Fabien Michel. All is good, door opens, out gets GG, in gets Fabien. And number 55, yes, as I say, for being 1.8 seconds under the pit stop regulation time, that I fear is going to end up with some sort of penalty. Jim Pla carrying on. The leading Mercedes staying out, staying out, staying out. There, Olivier Hart's come in the DHG, the company-backed Sellers Lab run Mercedes. And for the race leader, there he is, Jim Pla. Another lap soon to be completed here. So it's been a very, very impressive opening stint, this, from Jim. Building the gap all the time. 19 seconds last time around, although that's partly because, of course, the second place car had to slow to get to the speed limit line for pit in. But Jim Pla is running out of time as far as the stint is concerned. 36 now. Antoine Leclerc is being looked at for the pit stop being too short in the Alpine. He shares that with Stéphane Guérin, so that car could be in jeopardy for its race result as well. Jim Pla stays out for another lap. Now, Pro-Am is 30 to 37 minutes, so he's got to be in at the end of this lap, otherwise he'll run out of time. So the leader goes up towards turn 3. There in the background is yet another of the Mercedes coming through. 11 has played its Joker pit stop. That's the BMW of Boroshan Automotive that has now got Hassan Tansu behind the wheel. So Pla leads the way. Greg Gilbert takes over 42. And now, as all this starts to settle down after the final, if you like, round of pit stops, the last class to pit, we'll start to see what the true order is and where these Mercedes are in relation to 42 Audi, and of course where Jean-Luc Boberly comes back in 87. He should be in the lead because it's a mighty advantage. Max Busnelli has just brought 718 into the pits, the Porsche that had its dramas early on in the race. Right, there is Fabien Michel's car, Greg Gilbert at the wheel of it, and that is going to be where, in relation to, well, almost a lap down on the leader, that's the answer. Jim Pla is behind, flashing his light, so that shows you what a pit stop and the earlier time lost does. The car rejoins just ahead of the leader, so on track it is Pla ahead here of Lloveras, and then behind Lloveras it is Paul Everard. But the order changing all the time. They're showing 4th and 5th on the Lumirank, but others are now pitting, and the order changes at the end of the lap on those Lumiranks. That's when it confirms. So Lloveras goes through, there is Everard, and this should put them up into, let's see, 3rd and 4th, because into the pit lane now comes Jim Pla. In fact, so the leader is in this time, so now they get their lead, or their lap back against the leader. So through goes Greg Gilbert to be 2nd, 3rd is now Lloveras, 4th there Paul Everard. The 5th place was Jean-Ludovic Foubert under attack from Ruben Del Sart as they went into the Tarzan hairpin. Great job done by Jim Pla, can't fault that, can you? And he came in with about 17 seconds of the window to spare, so perfectly timed. Hands over to Jean-Luc Boberly, who now has to try and keep that lead for 22 minutes or so when he rejoins. Antoine Potty on the attack there as he comes up over the brow to have a go at the Jean-Ludovic Foubert Mercedes. Now Foubert not as quick as Chevalier that started that car, so you could anticipate it to drop back in fairness. And right there as well is Luca Bosco, number 34, in the green Olivier Hart started Mercedes. To the inside line now goes Antoine Potty in the Toyota, and he's going to go by, and he does go by. Now to the inside of Foubert goes Bosco, another place gained. So after all of Chevalier's hard work in the opening stint, a slower, less experienced co-driver now dropping places, and markedly that car falling back in the pack. So there is Jim Pla, or the Jim Pla car, Jean-Luc Boberly at the wheel into the race. Jean-Luc Boberly down the pit road, but he can't accelerate yet because he's not got to the pit out line. That comes round the corner, and as he turns through the inside of the hairpin, then he gets onto the power and accelerates away. So Jean-Luc Boberly, with a bit of a slide as he discovers what the car feels like now, leads the way, but he can't hang about, can't hesitate. We've got an Audi in strife. Is that the 77 Romain Ionetta car? Well, it was Ionetta that started it. It's Eric Clement at the wheel of it now. And was that all his own work? It was. Too much power out of turn 9, and a little bit keen on the throttle. Around goes Clement. Gets himself back onto the circuit. Dirty tyres as a result. And Paul Everard is all over the back of Xavier Lloveras now. Looks to the inside line, turn 3. Can he get up the inside? Not quite. Forces Lloveras up high, up the curb. But Lloveras still gets the drive off the corner and still claims the place. This is for not only 3rd, but it's also for the Silver Cup lead, don't forget. So it's a crucial battle for class honours as much as overall position right now. Through they turn together, and still the Mercedes of the Spanish drivers, Luis Ibanez, Xavier Lloveras now at the wheel of the car, keeps Frenchman Paul Everard at bay. And a stop-go penalty is coming for number 36 Alpine, number 55 Aston for being too short on the pit stop. Here, Lloveras keeps Everard at bay for the moment, but this means that Stéphane Guérin and Ruben Del Sart are about to be penalised. Side by side, the two Mercedes make the run now down towards turns 11 and 12, and round the outside, Paul Everard picks up the place. Good, brave move. Can he get the car stopped? No. Runs deep, runs off the road. Back alongside him comes Lloveras, but still on the tighter, shorter line is Everard, and he does go through. Just about secures the place then, goes through on the inside line. So Paul Everard it is that goes through, takes the place, finally, away from Xavier Lloveras. Off the banking they come now, almost together again, but it looks as though with the better pace that he's got, Everard is going to be able to build that gap. So Jean-Luc Boberly leads by 17 seconds from Fabien Michel. Then in 3rd place here, you've just seen the change. It is Everard ahead of Ibanez. Ruben Del Sart there is 5th, but he has got a 1 second stop-go penalty to come. So Antoine Potti will inherit 5th. Luca Bosco will inherit 6th. And 19 minutes and change on the clock in what has turned out to be a proper race for the GT4 European Series after all the travails that we had earlier on in the day. 55 goes through. Ruben Del Sart with this Damocletian drive-through, stop-go yet to be served. So the other car that really, as I say, has fallen away quite markedly, down to 8th, Bailey Voisin after Charlie Fagg's good first stint, but a long pit stop, 10 seconds lost in the pits for the United Autosports crew, and that has dropped Bailey Voisin behind Luca Bosco, and quite a long way back as well, 2.6 seconds he's trying to make up against that car. So as the field turns through, there's the McLaren. Bailey Voisin racing here for the first time, admittedly, but the car having gone well and double winner at Monza. The United Autosports squad, the Anglo-American team, the British bit based up in Leeds. The car powers down towards turns 11 and 12 now. Bailey Voisin up from the Ginetta Junior Championship, in which he starred last year, goes through the right, through the left of the Hans Ernst box, and then up towards the right-hander of Kumo. Lap 23, he's on in number 23. There is Mauro Ricci, who is now leading the AM class, but the Toyota right behind him is second in the AM class. That is Wilfried Casalbon. So the gap coming down between those two. Through they turn, and Mauro Ricci, who's taken over the car from his son, Benjamin. Got the 55 Aston of Ruben Del Sart in for its 1 second stop-go penalty, so the order's going to be distorted again up front. Ricci goes through. Casalbon is almost there. Wilfried Casalbon was involved in the great battle late race at Paul Ricard with the Christophe Amon Michael Blanchemin Audi for class honours. Just lost out, but it was a really, really fierce fight the two had. So Casalbon is a pretty feisty racer. There, meantime, up to the outside of the McLaren goes number 11, the BMW of Hassan Tansu. That was Bailey Voisin trying to get through traffic, in fairness, as they're going through is, with all the witness marks up the left-hand side of it, the Casalbon Toyota. Gus Bowers, I apologise, getting up past Hassan Tansu, rather misplaced that the second of the McLarens was still making good progress up the field. So Gus Bowers, despite his accident earlier on in the day, showing no ill effects, and up into 23rd place now, relieving Hassan Tansu of the position. So you've got one of the UA cars, 8th, the sister car now up into 23rd, and still able to gain ground before the very end. The next target for Bowers is Rui Meohas. He'll get him, I think, before the end of the race, as here over the brow comes the AM class lead fight. Number 3, Wilfried Casalbon, in the second of CMR's Toyotas, accelerates through. 16 minutes on the clock. And as the field accelerates up now round the right-hander of turn 9. The Mercedes just with enough in hand at the moment, but I'm not convinced that Mauro Ricci can do that for another 16 minutes, which is effectively what we've got on the clock. Now, up front, the lead gap is coming down. It was 17 seconds, remember, Bobalik to Michal. It is now 14 seconds, Bobalik to Michal. So the lead gap is certainly coming down. You see how much movement there is in a GT4 car. There is a bit of aero, but not anywhere near as much as in a GT3 car. So there, Casalbon's Toyota slides around as he accelerates and brakes. Has to be oh so careful with the throttle application. Goes now down through the Kumho box to the line dike curve once more. As he does so, Mauro Ricci hangs on to that class lead. So they turn through together. Closing up under braking is Casalbon. Turns through the Tarzan hairpin. There you can see 26th and 27th overall, but a class lead battle. The lead gap, as I say, coming down still at 14 seconds. The Silvers, Paul Everard, now that he's got ahead of Luc Ibanez, is getting away. So it's Pro-Am, Silver, and then you go all the way down the order, and here are the AMs, and it's no less fierce a fight, that's for sure. So through they turn, and Mauro Ricci hangs onto the class lead. Wilfried Casalbon in the Toyota. a good noise. The Supra GR being for Gazoo Racing, the performance brand that Toyota is promoting through the World Endurance Championship, through GT4 cars, through indeed the British Touring Car Championship as well as World Rally, of course, in which the Toyota Yaris is having great success still. So there, Casarbon up onto the back of Ricci, and with the lead gap down to 13 seconds now, Fabien Marchal still chasing on, but has Jim Pla done enough to maintain a gap for Jean-Luc Beaubelique to preserve to the very end of the race? So Wilfried Casarbon turns out of the turn 12 left-hander onto the power, almost onto the tail of Mauro Ricci. Further back, Rui Meerhouse is being caught by Gus Bowers in the second of the UA McLarens. Ricci versus Casarbon once more off the banking of the Lyondike curve, up over the timing line they come. So Wilfried Casarbon chases on in the Toyota, looks to the outside line, moves there, has a long look, but can't do anything about him. Back onto the power, sprints up towards the Kerlach Bocht, but Wilfried Casarbon, who used to race a Ginetta in the French GT Championship, last year's AM champ in the French GT Series, on his toes coming out of turn 3. Now, has he got the run now up against the Mercedes? Looks one way, looks the other, but everywhere he wants to be, Mauro Ricci is already there. Ricci keeping him at bay. Ricci, an experienced driver from the Blockpan Endurance Series, as was the Sports Club from the International GT Open Series, and the cars here still nose to tail, and again showing in GT4 terms how the SRO BOP works, because you've got the Mercedes, the Toyota, very evenly matched indeed. 36 Alpine being reminded it's got to serve its 1 second stop-go penalty for being short on the pit stops. And there are quite a few teams at the moment being summoned to see the stewards, so I think as the stewarding team works through the judicial element of the race, things might be in the balance a bit for some teams. So Ricci it is, who's taken over from his son Benjamin. He leads the way in AM, Casarbon second. The third car in the AM class is Nico Gomar, last year's champion, in fact, who has to do the hard yards because Eric Hare, his co-driver, not as quick, so it was a poor grid position, relatively speaking. 12 minutes to go. And there is Gus Bowers, and he's about to gain another place, look, because that's going to put him ahead of Rui Meerhouse on the inside line. The Israeli driver loses out to the Brit. Gus Bowers from British GT last year goes through up the inside, place gained. And you can see just up the road ahead is going to be the next target as well, because Hugo Condé is there in the Aston Martin. So fair play to Gus Bowers. It was a sizable off that he had earlier on in the day, but not showing any after effects, is he? Pounding along, not daunted by the corner he's approaching at very high speed coming up any moment, which is Skyflach up at the top of the lap, the right hand and the fast right, that they are approaching any second now over the brow of Slottermacher curve, and there into Skyflach 14, Rui Meerhouse then dropping back a little bit, and it won't be long before Bowers is up past Hugo Condé as well in the Aston Martin, so the next target's going to be 21st place. Up front, lead gap, Jean-Luc Beaubelique has gone through. Fabien Marchal yet to break the beam on the timing line, but as he now does so, is 8.9 seconds back, so is the leading car on borrowed time, just under 11 minutes and just under 9 seconds the margin. Bowers, 22nd now, onto the back of Hugo Condé. Looks to the inside line, lines him up for a pass, makes that look easy. Good move. Through goes Gus Bowers, then up on the inside line. Goes right, goes left, and on exit goes away from the Aston Martin. Rui Meerhouse, the Israeli driver, comes up to challenge him. Now there is the charging Fabien Marchal. It's not only now, of course, for the race win, it's also for the points in class. There is Beaubelique. So 8.9, and he's lost 7/10 in Sector 1 alone. Fabien Marchal in second place, that's the gap. So it's ACA ASP versus Santalot, two of the top French GT teams, and in the gravel is Eric Clement. He's already had one spin at that corner, now he's had another off, and he's put himself into the gravel. Is that going to be a safety car? Is that going to be the story of how the race is won? It was coming out of turn 10 that he got it wrong this time. It was 9 the first time, 10 the second. He spins it, tries to turn the car around and just drives straight into the gravel. So there's a yellow in Sector 2, but is that going to end up being a safety car period to drag the car out? Let's wait and see. one car in the background you can hear making a horrible noise, or something's either dragging along the ground or it's got a problem. But through goes 42, that being Fabian Michel's car. It's not the leading Mercedes, is it, making that sort of clattering noise? There it is, coming over the line. And a full course yellow is coming in 10 seconds. So we're about to have the race slowed right down. And the full course yellow boards are there. So full course yellow, just when we thought we'd escaped all the dramas in GT4. Full course yellow is called for. And Paul Everard goes through in 3rd spot. So he is a little bit closer to Fabian Michel. That's the reason for this interruption with Eric Clement's car in the gravel. And when it's a day-glow yellow car, it can't exactly be hidden, can it? It's rather noticeable, that. So real frustration then, with 8 minutes and change on the clock, because all this eats into the hour, and some of the drivers being more attentive of the full course yellow than others, you could argue, because some gaps have come down and others have shot up as a consequence. And look at that for an overlap situation in the background. Full course yellow means you go at your delta speed, so I think there's going to be quite a lot for the stewards to look at the end of this race. And of course the timing system with the GPS data as well is able to pinpoint offenders that didn't slow down in time or didn't do the delta speed. So if you are chancing your arm a little bit, it might come back to haunt you. So we're being told number 77 has hit the tyre barrier. I'm not sure it's hit the tyre barrier, but certainly in the gravel. And we've also got number 11 off the road at turn 2, according to the timing screen. Hassan Tansu's BMW. But this is the turn 2 area. No sign of the BMW off that shot. Through goes the delayed Ruben Del Sart Aston. Maybe the BMW is just hidden there in front of those marshals out of our camera shot. So we're told it's at turn 2. That was turn 2 approaching 3, and we can't see the car, but it's hidden away. There is the Audi that we can account for. So the marshals go to work, but with 7 minutes to go, I've got this horrible feeling again that we're not going to get very much in terms of racing mileage in before the very end here. So with the Audi in the gravel, the BMW we have found, but we can't really see it very clearly. The way that he's parked, it's frustratingly either away from a camera or hidden behind one of the trackside hoardings. But trust me, the car has been off the road at turn 2. Now this is to get 77 out of the gravel. Let's see how long it's going to take. The car's undamaged, which is the good thing. So there, over the timing line, goes the Paolo Meloni BMW, which is now quite a long way back, 6th in fact in its class. That recovery vehicle is to go and get the BMW out of the way. The course car is there, so help the officials police things. So the race control team have gone out to have a look. It's the last 6 minutes of the race now. So Eric Clement's car out of the gravel, as you see, and he's allowed to drive away. So we're still under this full course yellow. I will suspect it's going to be a safety car restart anyway. Right, there's a bit of a BMW. That's as good as we can offer you. So the big crane rather in the way. That's had to be relocated, in fact, because where it was on Friday became a quagmire yesterday. It was like being in quicksand, so it had to be moved, and therefore got in the way of our camera. There it is, we found a BMW. We'll see how much damage it's got, but the only good thing about this is it's an easy retrieve. You just drag it backwards, and there's an access point, and then the road is clear. So keep going straight, says the marshal. There's this horrible graunching noise any moment as he discovers the width of the barrier and the gap. But anyway, he's through, and I'm not quite sure that's necessarily holding station as the cars come over the line, but everybody anticipating that if the full course yellow is rescinded, they need to be on their toes. I would have thought it's going to be a safety car after the amount of time that they've been under full course yellow for. Normally you get a safety car to up the pace and restart them more safely. Trouble is that takes longer to coordinate because you need at least a lap or so of safety car to bring things back up to temperature. However, we've still got 4 minutes and change, and right now a lap is about 3 minutes. Now, looking at the time on the clock, I would still be surprised if a full racing lap were conducted, so I think we are going to end up with the cars being behind the safety car, which is pretty much how the race finished this morning. There is Jean-Luc Beaubelique, who, courtesy of Hassan Tansu and Eric Clement, could be gifted a race win, and that was the noise I was hearing. It is the leading car, and it's the splitter that's broken, and it's dragging on the ground. So when I said a couple of laps ago a car was making a noise, well, now you know why. The safety car has picked him up, so we've not yet gone to safety car conditions, but with a lead that was being eroded and a splitter that's pretty much split, Jean-Luc Beaubelique is about to have the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card afforded to him here, because it looks like he's going to survive, courtesy of other people's incidents. So the safety car is on the circuit.
Safety car procedure now.
And the voice you hear is that of Steve Burns, the race director, to say we'll go safety car procedure. So that means that the field will now gather behind the safety car, but a lap is 3 minutes and 7 seconds. Look what's on the clock. So pretty much this is to get them in a line and bring them round to the end. May well be that there's a bit of barrier damage, which is why we can't go racing instantly. So through they come. There you've got for third place, Paul Everard, fourth, Luc Ibanez, fifth, Antoine Potti, sixth over the line, Luca Bosco going nicely. So Jean-Luc Beaubelique thinking, well, this has all worked out quite well. 2.5 minutes on the clock, and looking as though an easy win is going to go his way. You've got a feel for Fabien Michel and Greg Gilbert, though, because perhaps rolling the dice about earlier pace, thinking, well, we're quicker than Beaubelique, but they've had less time to do it because of this full course yellow into safety car situation, which deprives them of that chance of really being able to attack. And with two incidents to attend to pretty much at the same time, it's a kind of general clean-up operation from race control, hence the need to interrupt the race. The safety car's going at a fair old pace, actually, so I think we might get one more lap. Out of the right-hander of turn 9 comes the race leading car. Safety car leads the queue, and with Jean-Luc Beaubelique then the speed, the pace being up, they're going to get one more lap out of this, looking at it. But whether the safety car will conduct that last lap remains to be seen. The lights are still on. There's no hint that the lights are going to be extinguished, but they've got to up the pace a little bit, I think. Otherwise, cars would start overheating and struggling with a really slow crawl round for one more lap. But the safety car pace is going to give them one more lap. Through they turn. Jean-Luc Beaubelique clatters his way around the turn 13 right-hander into the last minute of the race. You could argue that there is little point having a further safety car lap because the order can't change, but the race will go the full hour, so they get one more lap behind the safety car for what it's worth, and the yellow lights are still on. So over the timing line they go, with about 40 seconds on the clock effectively. So what was that lap? 2 minutes and 26. So onto the last lap they go. So Jean-Luc Beaubelique and Jim Pla pretty much confirmed as the winners from Fabien Michel and Greg Gilbert and Paul Everard.
Final lap, this is the final lap. Race will finish under safety car conditions.
Paul Everard and Timothée Bouret set for third, and of course the Silver Cup win. So we finish under safety car conditions. The order the same at the end of this lap as it would have been at the end of the previous one. Discuss the point of the last lap other than to complete the time, but you could argue a checkered flag early gives you the same ultimate outcome. There is the 87 Mercedes going through, so Jean-Luc Beaubelique on target for a win, courtesy of this slow last section, plus of course his co-driver's excellent efforts earlier on. So it's going to be a Pro-Am win for Beaubelique and Pla. Second will be Fabien Michel and Greg Gilbert. third in Pro-Am will be the Luca Bosco and Olivier Hart Mercedes. In Am, Wilfried Casalbon had got ahead just before we went to the full course yellow, so ahead of Mauro and Benjamin Ricci. And third of the Ams will be Nico Gomar and Eric Hare in the Aston. As for silver, there's the leader, 88, Paul Evrard and Timothée Bure. Second is the number 15, Mercedes of Luc Ibanez and Xavier Lloveras. And third is going to be number 8, which is the Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemeray driven Toyota. So the checkered flags at the ready. The cars now turn their way up towards the completion of the last lap of the race, and will then make their way for one even slower lap round to the pit lane and to Parc Fermé. But it's going to confirm the win for Jean-Luc Beaubelic and Jim Pla. There is the winning Am car, Wilfried Casalbon and Andrea Benezet. The checkered flag is waved and Jean-Luc Beaubelic brings it home to score victory for ACA ASP. We've had a disappointing day in GT3, so winning GT4 certainly helps. Fabien Marchal and Greg Gilbert second, and a class-winning third, the Silver Mercedes, Silver Cup Mercedes, not silver in colour, Paul Evrard and Timothée Bure. The rest of the field accelerates through, and Wilfried Casalbon and Andrea Benezet come over the line in the Toyota now to score a class win, with the Am top step of the podium heading their way. So some very happy teams down in Parc Fermé on the pit wall, and the celebrations will continue. Jules Gounon, good to see there, the ACA ASP GT3 driver, going to congratulate the team, saying well done on a job well done in GT4 terms. And there the Pro-Am winning Mercedes, and from the same stable, the silver winning Mercedes, both ACA ASP cars. The team with a good result in race 2 in the GT4 European Series. So there you have Jim Pla, Jean-Luc Beaubelic's car making its way around to the podiums. Fabien Marchal, a little frustrated, no doubt, trying everything he could to get onto terms with the leading Mercedes, but just running out of time. And of course, that lengthy interruption to the race, the slower full course yellow and safety car period, really going against him, but nothing that can be done about it. If there are cars in dangerous places, then they need retrieving. That's exactly what the race officials had to do. So for Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Beaubelic, first win of the year, most definitely the best result they've had this season. The results confirmed as they came over the line: Jean-Luc Beaubelic, Jim Pla the winners, ahead of Fabien Marchal and Greg Gilbert, with Paul Evrard and Timothée Bure taking third. Xavier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez fourth, from Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemeray, Luca Bosco and Olivier Hart sixth. Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg seventh, from Jean-Luc Daria and Jamie Caroline, Ivan Jacoma and Max Busnelli 10th, and Enzo Juliet with Sébastien Bode taking 10th place. Overall winner winning Pro-Am, third winning silver, and for the winning Am, 25th, the Toyota from CMR's stable of Wilfried Casalbon and Andrea Benezet, from the Mauro and Benjamin Ricci Mercedes, Nico Gomar and Eric Hare taking third in the class. So 32 laps done. As I say, there are quite a few of the teams being encouraged to go and see the race officials, so it could well be that one or two time penalties fly post-race. And the one that we lost on the opening lap of the race, the Allied Racing Porsche of Konstantin Dressler and Dennis Fetzer. Konstantin Dressler not getting behind the wheel. Well, there's a very happy Jim Pla, who's finally had a race win, and there's a very happy Jean-Luc Beaubelic, who gets out of the car, says bravo to the team, to Jim. And Jean-Luc, massive enthusiast. He's raced in modern as well as in historic cars, but Jean-Luc Beaubelic will be very, very pleased with that. And he's a big supporter of GT3, GT4, of the ACA team. I think I'm right in saying that ACA, his business, one of the big investors nowadays in Jean Policon's squad, so certainly deserves that result. And it's good to see Jim Pla taking race honours as well. So they're the drivers being given their Pirelli caps, Pirelli rubber on which they all run. And Jean-Luc Beaubelic, balaclava off, earplugs out.
Yeah, they're on me.
Gets his hat. very shortly. Hopefully have a word before he goes up to the podium. Fabien Marchal waving to anybody that he wants to. Jim Pla is there, heading towards Gemma and the cameras. Jean-Luc Beaubelic will get dressed for the occasion, as it were. Right, let's hear from our winners. Jean-Luc Beaubelic and Jim Pla take race honours then. And down in the Parc Fermé area is Gemma Scott.
Jean-Luc and Jim, a fantastic result for you guys. Jim, you've had a very busy day. You must be exhausted.
Yeah, it was tough, the last race. A bit tired of this weekend, but really happy to finish on top. We had a good car in GT3 and GT4 this weekend, but not the result, so I'm really happy to finish like that. And yeah, it's good for the championship as well, so that's good.
Well done to you. Jean-Luc, at the end there, did you have a problem with the splitter?
Jim makes the job, and the finale, it's crazy, but the result is here.
So, well done.
Yeah,
there was a problem with the splitter at the front of the car,
yeah,
right?
I don't know why. I don't know if it touched something or, yeah. I think 2 laps before the safety car, we saw the splitter. Yeah, we are lucky that it finished like that, but we are really happy, and we have to have some luck sometimes, so yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Félicitations. Merci, bravo.
So Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Beaubelic, the race winners. All smiles beneath the masks. In the background, you've got Fabien Marchal and Greg Gilvat, and 88 Paul Everard and Timothée Bure, the Silver Cup winners at the end of another busy race here at the Zandvoort circuit. Interesting race as well, with those 3 staggered pit windows, just to add something else to the race. It was done, of course, for safety reasons with a big grid, and not the biggest of pit lanes here, but it's also been trialled at Brands Hatch, you might remember, a few years ago in the championship. Let's hear from the Silver Cup winners, Paul Everard and Timothée Bure. Next, they are with Gemma down in the pit lane, ready to celebrate a class win.
Gents, class winners, 3rd overall. That's the kind of result you're looking for, right?
Yeah, exactly. 3rd in general, but first silver, that was the first goal. And I think we wanted to make this result today, because this morning we get penalized by 5th place on the grid. So I think we show to everyone that we have the pace now, and we hope we can fight again for the win, some wins next.
Absolutely, and Paul, of course, you brought it home.
Merci, Jean-Luc.
Paul, you managed to bring it home there.
The car is very good, thanks to my teammate, my team, and it's a good day for me.
A good day for you and a good day for the team. Well done to both of you.
Much.
Congratulations, félicitations.
So the drivers now up to the podium, and the podiums will be underway very shortly as the drivers are being rounded up. So the 3 podiums that we have, Silvers, Pro-Ams and Ams. Top 3 crews from each need to be found and then brought to the podium. So we have the winning drivers from the 3 categories. You've heard from Jean-Luc Beaubelic and Jim Pla, from Timothée Bure and Paul Everard. Maiden victors both, and a really good result that for ACA ASP, winning 2 of the 3 classes. So the cars held at the foot of the podium. We await the drivers. Teams on the way home, look, from the GT World Challenge Europe. That's Rinaldi racing off. And up they come, ready for the podium ceremonies. So the drivers making their way forward. And we'll start, I think, with silver. We'll wait and see which podium is offered up first here at Zandvoort. Still drivers are making their way up the stairs, as you can see. Zandvoort looking rather different over the last few years, with the more modern pit buildings and the modern podium, the race control tower rather than the old race control and commentary building that used to jut out over the pit straight, which was a great view, but rather different. Right, drivers are on the podium. And we have the third placed Pro-Ams, Luca Bosco and Olivier Hart, first of all. Second place, Fabien Marchal and Greg Gilvat for second in Pro-Am. And the winning Pro-Ams, the winners outright, Jean-Luc Beaubelic and Jim Pla make their way now on to the podium along with AKA ASP as the winning team. So well done to Jean-Luc Beaubelic and Jim Pla, the race winners, the class winners, and they take the spoils of victory as the drivers then leap from the podium, make their way back to the paddock and prepare themselves for the next round of the championship in what's been a fascinating season so far with a real spread of results and front runners. So well done to the AKA ASP team. The next drivers being brought forward, and up come the silver drivers, silver cup drivers, Antoine Potti, Stéphane Lammeret for third place. For second, it will be Xavier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez. And the Mercedes drivers will arrive in a moment, he hopes, followed by more Mercedes drivers, because the class winners, again for AKA ASP, Paul Evrard and Timothée Bure score third overall, but a class win within the Silver Cup, and again AKA ASP represented on the podium as the winning team. So well done to the winning drivers, Paul Evrard and Timothée Bure, who now got their Pirelli winners' caps back on, pose for the photographs. It's still such a shame that we have the face masks for the podium shots. Let's just see how silver is in the championship. That result gives Stéphane Lammeret and Antoine Potti a much bigger lead now over Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg. Luc Ibanez and Xavier Lloveras now third, Constantin Lachenauer and Cesar Gazo winners earlier on in the day, and Timon Nabors and Yot Raponge podium finishers earlier on in the day, now fifth in the points, if you take those as a crew to be in the position rather than individual drivers. So that's how silver looks. Good result then championship-wise for Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lammeret. Pro-Am, Fabien Marchal and Greg Gilbert well clear, but it's Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Beaubelic second, ahead of Max Busnelli and Ivan Jacoma, and then Luca Bosco in fourth. The AM podium is about to get underway, where third is the combination of Eric Hare and Nico Gomar. Second on the podium, you see Mauro and Benjamin Ricci, and there for the top step from CMR, Wilfried Casarbon and Andrea Benezet, and Charlie Boucher's team is represented on the podium as well. Talk about drivers being busy, so is CMR. They've been running GT4, GT3 cars and different brands within GT4 as well. So well done to the class winners, Wilfried Casarbon and Andrea Benezet. A very, very good result indeed for the CMR team. And trophies in the air, photographs taken, and the drivers then now jump down. Just a quick look at the points in the AM class. It's Michel Blanchimont and Christophe Amont ahead, but Andrea Benezet and Wilfried Casarbon now chasing hard. Max Trasoldi and Paolo Meloni are ahead of Nico Gomar and Eric Hare, with the Ricci's getting a good score on the board, now up into fifth in the class. Right, let's have a look at the highlights then of the second of our GT4 European Series races. Another lively race that we enjoyed. It began with the pole-sitting Jim Pla Mercedes blasting away into the race lead, accelerating down towards the Tarzan hairpin, and effectively that was a lead it was never to lose, because try as Greg Gilbert might in the opening stint, there was just no way through. Up on the inside line, Charlie Fagg getting himself alongside the Toyota, Stéphane Lammeret dropping back a little bit over the opening part of the race, but actually the pace of the Mercedes and the Audi was such that there was no stopping them, as out wide ran Andrea Benezet. good battle going on lower down the order as well. A bit of contact between Job Raponge and Constantin Lachenau, the race 1 winner. Max Busnelli in 718 Porsche was in the thick of the action again, so too Tom Canning in 55. Aston Martin up on the outside of Timothée Bure. They were stuck behind the Porsche, but those two had a great little battle. And Vincent Beltoise was another one making good progress up on the inside of the AM fight with Benjamin Ricci 61 falling away overall. Max Busnelli battling with Constantin Lachenau, eventually falling back behind him as the Silver Cup Mercedes of Ivania Guevara battled with the Bure and Everard entry. Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemere's Toyota, though, falling a little bit down the order because that car not as well suited seemingly to Zandvoort as the Mercedes. The pit window, plural, there were 3 of them, busy as the order was shuffled, and it was the Jim Pla Jean-Luc Bobely Mercedes that retained the advantage after the pit stops. And then it was slightly gifted a result because as the Mercedes battled for Silver Cup honours with 88, the Everard Bure car going ahead, and a front splitter problem for the leader. So we had cars in the gravel, cars in the barrier, and ultimately a full course yellow into a safety car. The race unable to go green at the end. So a win as Eric Clement was in the gravel for Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Bobely to score honours in race 2 of the GT4 European Series. Great action all weekend. We'll see you next time. From Gemma Scott and David Addison, it's goodbye from Zandvoort.